This is the MDC Talks. We are the Motion Dance Collective, specializing in the creation, presentation, and education of dance on film practice. Today, we are talking with Valerie Ebuwa. I hope I said that correctly.
You said that right.
And Gerrard Martin, amazing dancers, movers, makers in the field. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Valerie Ebuwa. I am a freelance dance artist, writer, maker of things, moves, based in London.
Beautiful.
I am also a freelance dance artist. I perform, I teach, also teach yoga and movement direct. And I also live in London.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Hello, Amari here.
Hi.
Amari's here, James is here as well. We just had a conversation just before we started the podcast about how we introduce ourselves. And I thought maybe that could be a first question, even though it's not on our list. Because we do a lot of different things. We come from lots of different places, so when you're in certain circles, you may have to change up the way that you introduce yourself maybe slightly to kind of fit that. What three things do I say to this specific person? Do you find that
Yeah, I also find that people, it was lovely to be asked, or can you introduce yourself, blah, blah, blah. I find that people go to my website, and then obviously because it's a website, you have to kind of list everything that you do. Yeah. So then they'll be like, freelance dancer, activist, writer, model, blah, blah, blah. And then you just sound like a twat, because you're just in my head anyway, I'm like, yeah, I do all those things, but also it's just that's long if we're not going to talk about modelling. So let's just leave that. Whereas if the thing is about writing, then I'm going to say I'm a writer first.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was owning those titles, because before when I used to say that, I was like, I'm a fake, I'm an imposter, or people think especially over here, think you're a bit flaky because you don't specify one thing. But I just realised actually it's all part of the same umbrella and it all feeds each other. Yeah. So now I actually quite enjoy saying, depending on what company, because I don't need to say all of them like Valerie, you don't have to say all of them, but sometimes it's like, this is my practice.
Yeah, I think it's good to try and find a way to kind of have an encompassing little paragraph or something that kind of really puts it down. Because again, you get asked in their circles when they go around, introduce yourself, please make it short if you can. Then you always get that one person who decides to list off the whole CV. And it's like, look, she said, the woman said 1 minute. And I've got mine rehearsed because I practiced. I practiced it. I'll come ready with this one. And the three things. And then, but yeah, I just want to put that out there because it's interesting. And it's good and it's great to ask people, and for this specific instance, who are we today?
How do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Nice.
So guys, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into Screendance? Do you want to start, Val, and then Gerrard, you can?
Yep. I'm totally free.
My journey into Screendance, very interesting. I think when I was growing up, my ideas about dance and screen was always for music videos, because that's all I encountered. So Screendance for me was dancers dancing behind musicians.
Right.
That was just my only kind of ideas until I started doing GCSE and A-level dance. And then there was this kind of weird kind of blurring. So you'd get for instance, Christopher Bruce, you'd get ghost dances or swan songs. So you'd watch that and then you would write about it through your studies or whatever. But then you'd get stuff from DV8, Strange Fish, where I guess it was purposely made for film rather than, I don't know if there was a live version of Strange Fish. I'm just using that as an example because I love that one so much. But it wasn't necessarily clear to me at that point anyway whether it was for screen or not. Whereas I knew that Christopher Bruce's stuff, for instance, was live and they were recording it so that we could access it to study. So those were kind of my first, interactions with dance on screen or screen dance. And then in 2016, I started working with Vincent Dance Theatre, in which we made a live version of the show Virgin Territory, but then we also had a digital version that is still touring now, actually, I think.
And I imagine that digital version is shorter than the live version in some respects, or is it?
It's just edited. It's just edited to the So the theatre version is very long.
Right.
It is. long. I think it's almost 2 hours, that show, the live version of the show. Whereas I feel like the film version is maybe like an hour and a half or an hour. Like I think it's definitely shorter, but I don't think it's necessarily due to the
they didn't short
they didn't short it for screen. No, not at all. And the film version is filmed in different parts of Brighton and different parts of the UK. So it was a site specific version, I suppose, of it. But yeah, now it's really funny. So I did enter Screendance, I guess, via contemporary dance. But now I still perform in a theatre, but I do a lot of music videos now as well. So it's really interesting how, like I have a lot of different experience in dance and film as well. Like I've been in a eco-feminist fable of Giselle ballet. And that was that was a film version of that. So I've done that recently.
But I mean, all those experiences are very different from each other, you know?
Very, very different. So I have a strange dance, screen dance.
So, like Valerie was watching television, and I remember going to people's houses to watch MTV Base because I never had Sky back in the day. MTV Base. I used to absorb that and suck it all up. And then I remember doing GCSE dance, and they used to play clips, trailers of contemporary dance pieces like Chumley's and the Fanshaws and DV8. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. And then it wasn't until I went to Dartmouth University, we had to do a module on Screendance. It's like the first one a long time ago, like a millennia ago. But I remember we had to learn a little bit of rep, make it into a duet, and then in groups, reimagine it. So take different angles and shots, put the sound over. And I remember it being really frustrated editing. I love the creativity of it, but it's just because it was ages ago, so the way of editing was really slow and really annoying. So I was just like, can you just take over this because I'm going to cry? But we got it together, and it was really cool watching all the different groups' interpretation. I was like, this is really interesting, the opportunities you can see with dance and screen, and you can get out to different people and make it more accessible. And then flash forward, I remember doing a piece on my camera. So I literally filmed one of my dancers, Angela. Do you know Angela? Marie Hurst, beautiful dancer. And we just made something in the studio really quickly, and we took some photos in South Bank. So what's the word? Make a montage? It was almost like a pop video, contemporary styly. So that was one little juncture, and then I've done stuff myself being in pop videos or contemporary videos as well. And then I also know the difference between filming on in a flat box, capturing the movement, or actually making the dance for the film and film for the dance, if that makes sense. How it marries. So similar as Valerie, similar interests with it as well.
Yeah, I think there's been trends of, because I'm similar as well, coming from the music video front, and it was always I don't know, my experiences were never ones that necessarily made me want to get into this as a living. Especially when dancing in the background of different things. Like we did a job with Tinchy Strider. I'm gonna say names.
Drop them.
But we arrived at 8. We did our first part of our shoot, and the second part of the shoot was at 7 p.m. Right.
Good.
We did another 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And then they forgot to feed us at lunch, so they forgot we were there. Because we were there for 7 hours just waiting to go on the thing. Obviously, their shot list had prioritised whatever they needed to get on the day, so it was one of those interesting ones. And then I'll speak to people like, Kenrick, who also comes from a live space, and his experiences have been, he said all of his experiences have been a bit maybe a gap in the language or a bit jarring when it came to that. I just wondered if there was, I imagine there's been a breadth of experiences, but have you ever felt that there was maybe a gap or that made you not necessarily want to be in that world?
It was just interesting, the duration, waiting around, because I understand, because you have to set up shots and the lighting has to be right and all the rest of it, but sometimes you do all that and then people don't actually want dance. They say they want dance and all the intricate moves. So the choreographer spends loads of times, and it's like cut to fuck. Sorry, I'm allowed to talk.
You're fine.
Sorry. This is the BBC. Oh my God, I'm on Graham Norton. I don't know what's going. But I swear.
Yes.
But so yeah, it's just really interesting. It's like, actually, I've just seen a toe. I actually want to see the dance. It would be nice.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's interesting with me about how people use the information and the content. It's like, actually, do you want to have dances in that? You like the idea of the energy.
You just like the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aesthetic.
And then you have these dancers and choreographers working for ages, getting this lovely content, and then this gets... Sorry.
My response to that would be...
I'm scared.
Just sit here and listen. I'm sorry, I'm just going to chime in a second. Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I come from the other side. I mean, I was a dancer, so I understand where you're coming from, but my focus now is predominantly film and cinematography. And so my journey, I think I kind of explained this in one of the other episodes that we did, but my journey was coming from that place of I want to show the dancer, I want to show the dancer as a whole. And as I've gone more into film, I've been dissecting the body more and more, to the point where now I look at it the other way around, and when I work with dancers and they say to me, oh, but, you know, don't use all the close-ups because, you know, we can't really see the dance. And I'm like, well, you've hired a filmmaker to come in, so don't you want it to be a film?
Interesting.
So you're saying, don't you want to see the dancer? And I'm saying, but don't you want it to look like a film?
I suppose with me, it's more of that conversation between the two.
Yeah, it's just a negotiation of both languages.
Because I also realised, like, it is boring having a flat-fronted dance and just seeing composition and moving around. You do need close-ups and wide-angle shots, and you do need to maybe see the side of the profile and the touch of the skin and, I don't know, sweat dropping.
The details.
details.
Yeah.
So I get it more now. I've seen more, experienced more. But it's that, I think it's that harmony, not one, two, what's the word? Side heavy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Because also it can save time.
Before James
It can
kicks,
save
before
so
James
much-
kicks me into the door.
It can save so much time.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with one or the other. Again, Fred Astaire was known for that. He had in his contract, you're not allowed to edit my dance. So he's always filmed, if you notice,
Wide shots of everything.
And it moves, and it's all in one take. So you might go to a character or someone else looking at it, but he's always filmed in one take. Where Busby Berkeley was bird's eye shot of the woman in the fountain,
fans, yeah.
and then like
I remember watching all
shots
those
coming
shots.
around, and then like split screen. And he used as many effects as possible within that work. But again, like both of them, you can see that there is a collaboration there, and there's no wrong way or right way. I think it's the context of using it and not being afraid to go there if we need to for the piece. David Hinton, who is director for Strange Things, we interviewed him recently for the Masters.
Oh my gosh.
And he said one of the reasons that Screendance isn't maybe as sophisticated as some of its separate forms is that dancers want to be seen dancing and filmmakers want to edit. But once you understand that that's what they want to do, then you're empowered to kind of go, okay, right, I know I'm going to be edited. What can I do with that information now?
And maybe as I try and think as a form, not being too precious as well.
Yeah.
I think because then you know it's like, oh, actually this is going to be used in X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and I think that's why Screendance was created, in order to kind of let go, because that's what a marriage is. You kind of have to
Surrender.
That's what he...
This is no sex for you tonight.
Give and take.
No give and take.
Little give and take.
You know, choose battles.
So, next question. This is an interesting one. So, because you're both performers and dance artists, do you prefer performing live or for film?
It's a heavy burden on Valerie.
I mean, yeah, I'm like, oh. So...
Because you probably
Interesting
both
question.
experienced both now. Many times, I'm sure, in different settings and different environments. So, do you have a preference personally, or?
I think I will always prefer live performance.
Okay.
Just because I feel like I've fallen into screen dance, whereas performance has always been at the forefront of my
the goal.
Yeah, the goal to be a dancer.
Yeah.
Or the goal to make things.
Yeah.
However, I love the space that editing can allow for something to have meat, like
Yeah.
there's just such a nice space it creates, and such a curation of narrative that I really appreciate that live work doesn't always have.
Right.
For those of you listening and not watching this, she is just dancing and not talking.
just moving and grooving. That's how I think. Make her moves. Yeah, I think I prefer performance, but I prefer the doing of performance.
That's all.
But I think I actually prefer the
Watching?
outcome of screen.
Yeah? Fair
Yeah,
enough.
because I mean, live performance is
Yeah.
immediate. You know what the response is,
exactly.
and so
And you know what the feeling is, and you know, I think there's also like a massive difference for me personally about like how I feel when it's live, like in the doing.
Yeah, physically.
The actual physicality of it, and
Yeah.
then the like when I'm doing something for film, it's like, okay, and go again.
Yeah.
Okay, and do it again another time.
Take 10.
Okay, and this time do it this much. Like, you know, there's just a different. I'm not saying it doesn't feel as nice.
No, but it's a different sensibility.
It's a different embodiment.
Oh yeah, it's so different. It's so different. And you don't have that same like you were saying about the immediate reaction, that same engagement with an audience member, like
Yeah, lots of elements.
lights.
involved.
Yeah.
And Gerrard, what about you? Do you have a preference?
I think, I'm like Valerie, I think live,
Okay.
just because it's your time, like you've been given this gift of the choreography, and then it's just your communication with the audience,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, it's immediate and it's there, and you can I don't know, you can hear the breath, you can feel the sweat. I don't know, you're just very present.
Yeah.
The thing that film's great is it allows you to do it again and again. So if you don't hit the mark for yourself, you know that you can be recaptured. But then reverse, switch that again, I'm a Gemini. It's that longevity, like, because I remember I've done a couple of live screening of award shows, and I've had to be a dancer on that, and then knowing that if you mess up on that, and then it's going to be there for all of, or internet or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that pressure for me, because my own perfectionism. It's like, I want to be amazing so I can look back and know my foot's pointed or something ridiculous.
Yes,
All
yeah.
those little aesthetics and stuff.
Absolutely.
But then film dance can be really glamorous, or it could be really gritty depending on the context as well.
Totally.
So, but I think,
and like you
sorry.
said, you can take things, you can do 10 takes of the same movement, or you might do it once and be moving on, because it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, and the time.
But don't you get a bit of a rush knowing that you might get it wrong? I don't know. Sometimes in
live?
Yeah, and sometimes in live performance, I'm like, what, like. Sometimes when something lands, I'm like, whoa, like that. It's like
Just on the edge.
if I just didn't
I think
about
if
that.
it's live in a theatre, yes. But
yes.
if I know it's live, but then there's an other element of the camera catching.
Yeah.
I try to stay present because at least the
Yes.
audience is there. But then I know, I might have to look back on that, and that's my own little insecurity.
Yeah.
Which I know it's just being human, but sometimes I'm like,
Indeed.
but yeah.
I think if you want a little extra exhilaration from being on camera, maybe think about how much money is being spent.
But then I'll think
I'm gonna have a heart attack.
But then I'll
What you
think
trying to do to
about
me?
like.
I'm like,
But then I'll think about like how. But then I'll think about like how little of it's going to me, and then I'm like, oh, all this money. Oh yeah, I'm getting like what part of it?
I think it also comes from an audience perspective as well, knowing that this is the only time I'm going to see this
Yes.
way.
You
Indeed.
know, and kind of
Yeah.
doing that in life. But
but sorry.
yeah, no, go.
Just recently, I've done. It was for a guy who was making a soundtrack, and he had a lovely team. It was a wicked experience actually. We worked with Fionn,
Yeah.
and we did like structured improv with the camera. So it was like pop video meets contemporary, and it was just really interesting because we had our plots where we had to meet and structures, but within that we were free, as long as we had the concept in our head, and it was costume and all the rest of it. But it was a really great way of me allaying my fears, because it didn't have to replicate what had gone before,
Yeah.
because it was always fresh.
Indeed.
Even though we had to hit marks and all the rest of it.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
So that was perfect for me. Like, I could be amazing and gorgeous because I know it can be captured, but then I can have that risk element as well. So
Yeah.
It's great, and I think, but yeah, from the perspective of now making dance on film, it's interesting because I felt that way as well, that you couldn't really portray that feeling of this being the first time, but it was only until I started sitting alongside the audiences and watching my film with them, and it was like the first time I saw it.
through their eyes.
Yeah, through their eyes, and then I was like, oh, they laughed here, or this is wrong. And then every new audience, that the audience in Finland were different to the audience in
Amsterdam.
So you get to like, you just know that no matter, even if I go, this is exactly what I want you to see. This eye in this square frame, and it's going to be 3/4 of the way in the frame to the right. I want you to see that exactly. What each audience member gets at that you can't control.
Because perception is everything.
Right, in the same way that in a theatre, the audience can look the way that they want to look. In film, the audience can receive and in the way that they want to receive, the way that it's always down to their personal experience, isn't it? But yeah, I think both of them have their power and value, because you hear people say, oh no, yeah, live's better than film. But then I was like, but haven't you ever cried at a film?
Indeed.
Haven't you ever been so engrossed in it that you're like, wow, that film really brought me in, I felt like I was there. So it's like, maybe is there something missing from dance on film? Perhaps that could do that more. These are a couple of questions.
Yeah, and I mean, we've touched on this exact sort of topic of conversation in a previous episode when we were talking about live performance versus film. And I think as dancers and as, you know, movers, naturally, innately, there's a part of us that is just sort of groomed almost for live performance.
Yeah.
You know? Like, when I was learning how to dance, and you go to all those dance classes as a kid, and maybe you go to ballet school or you go to dance school, you know, the ultimate goal, no matter what, is to be on a stage somewhere, or to be, you know, throwing shapes live or something. That's sort of what we work towards, like you were saying, Valerie. So I think it's interesting, and it's probably just a perspective and a personal thing, but that's why it's an interesting question, because it is a very personal experience and a personal preference. So speaking on within the same space, do you think that a recorded trailer for a live show can ever really express the extent of the live performance?
I find that question really interesting, because I question what the use of the trailer is then. Because the trailer's supposed to give you, it's not supposed to give you the whole story, is it really? It's supposed to give you snippets of the thing, so it entices you to watch the film, you know. So if I don't know what film's out at the moment, but if I watch a trailer about, I'm just going to say Moonlight, even though it's not out right now, but Moonlight, because I love that film, and I knew the whole story, then I'd be like, why am I paying my money to go and see, you know? So I think if trailers are meant to do that, then I don't want to make trailers.
You take out the word trailer, and you've made a recorded version of a live performance, and it's supposed to embody that show, but obviously it might be shorter, like we talked about your other experience with Vincent Dance Theater. So any recorded variation of a live show, do you think it can ever fully express the extent of what that live show represents, or what it portrays to its audience?
Yeah, I think it can and do more. I think, you know, especially, I mean, it also depends as well, like, for me, maybe like the order, like the chicken and the egg, like, was it intended for live and then it was made into a film? Did the film come first and then they made a live version of it? Like, I think there's so much, I mean, I've been doing it recently, where I've been making live versions of films that I've been making, or film versions of live works that I've been making. And you just find so many different answers within it. You know, it really makes you have to unpick, okay, like, what is this live thing? What is that about? Yeah. Like, what are the things that I want people to feel and to hit? Okay, right. How can we amplify that? How can we, you know, is it a case of this shot has to be here, or like this person needs to be put in this light? Like, what does it mean again? Like, I think it can amplify it, if anything. It's just a case of
Yeah.
I think which one comes first, or like maybe is it like the intention? Yeah, I think it's more maybe about intention.
Yeah. Keyword. Love that. Do you agree, Gerrard?
It's a hard one. That's a really hard question.
Because obviously you've experienced this a lot. Some of the films that you've made, obviously you have B, which was also a live show.
And there was a little trailer from
And
it.
you
It was
made
a trailer.
you
Yeah.
made a trailer.
As well.
Exactly. So maybe you can speak to that and your intention behind making those shorter videos to maybe market or just get it out there to a wider audience.
Because I'm realizing now, because of the power of social media, IG, it can like arrest a viewer when they're scrolling. If you see these images and like, oh, what's that? And he wants to entice them. So that's why it upsets me, like saying with Valerie, if I go and see cinema and it's the whole thing. I was like, what? It's supposed to be a trailer. It's supposed to have the essence, not the whole thing. And they show all the best parts, and then you go and watch the film. You've seen them already, especially if it's a comedy. It's like, I know the punchline. Why bother?
Indeed.
But so it is like, especially because I was working with a excellent videographer called Corral St. Clair, and basically I just gave him the essence of my piece, and I literally was in a black box. He said, "You're all sweaty. Take your tops off."
Yeah.
Because it was about skin and touch and intimacy between two black guys.
Yeah.
And he just captured the whole thing I wanted to say in just 30 seconds. I was like, how did you do that? He's a dancer as well.
Yeah.
So I think he's got the movement of the eye. But yeah, it was just really interesting how he distilled all the very essence and put it into a 30-second trailer that somebody can scroll up and go, oh, I get that. That communicates to me. I want to see more.
Yeah.
So I think that's the power of media, which is great.
Yeah.
But there are different entities and they work in different ways. But I love the way that in Screendance you can manipulate stuff like amplify the sound or the saturate the colour, which you can't, I'm going to say, can't do as readily in live performance, or would take a lot more production values and money, because I'm not Akron Khan. Or Rombe. But yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
Makes
cool.
sense. Thank you. This is an interesting one, and I'm glad that we have you both here, because hopefully we can just have a sort of free-flowing conversation. I imagine it will spiral and spiral. But do you believe there's a difference in the way black bodies are represented on screen as opposed to in live theater work?
So, yes. So I've got a particular, pathway into this, is looking through the black gay experience. And I realise it's not a monolith, because that's what sort of happens when you say, I'm a community of black people, a community of gay people, go, oh, you speak for them. It's like, no, I'm one person, this is my experience. But there's commonalities. But I realised, and I'm glad you mentioned moonlight. Moonlighting?
Yeah,
Moonlight. Stunning. Just seeing men being intimate. And it could be just in the same room with each other. It could be a look with focus. It could be touch. It could be sex or sensuous. But you don't see that enough. You see black men fighting or being thugs or being aggressive or struggling. You don't see intimacy. Even with heterosexual couples the same. So that's why I wanted to, when I made B, just show the different sides of that experience and to actually have representation. Because people don't see that, and they don't think it's like, some people don't even think black people are gay. They're just assumed. This is assumed, especially in a way you look as well. A certain way. If you don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Coding.
Yeah.
If you don't, I don't know, wear a feather boa and a clutch bag, you can't be gay or something. It's like these big stereotypes.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
What about you, Val?
Interesting. Do I think there's a difference in representation between live work and screen dance? Not much.
Okay.
I think, but then also, again, it depends on contexts. So if it is in a hip hop context, I think because it is a genre from the diaspora, when you see it in theatres live, I know that's very specific, that's like theatres. I think there's representation of black bodies. I don't know if there's a vast spectrum of those bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a spectrum of shades.
Yeah.
I'd maybe argue. but there's definitely black representation. Whereas if it's in terms of, and I'd agree the same for in terms of like music videos and commercial stuff, or concept videos. I know that's a part of the Screendance conversation. If you want to talk about contemporary dance contexts, live work, like I know who's going to be in. I know the black dancers and black bodies who are going to be in those live works. I know. I can tell you who they will be. And you know, and there'll be one or there'll be two of us, and they'll be like, yeah, they'll do the like, yay, tick box, we've got you represented, we've got you down, like we've got this person, and again, even then, like I feel like in 2019, the shades are like, there's more shades, but you know, I mean, colorism is racism's best friend, you know, so like it is just, it's so like, oh. And then if you want to talk about, and then in like a scenic or film, dance film aspect, I'm just like, whoa. Like I think back to like all like studying contemporary dance, and all the screen dance films I saw and studied. There was no black people. There was just none. Like there was absolutely none. And I actually remember like doing my GCSEs, and I mean there is now because like I guess Alvin Ailey, and it's quite specific as well about in terms of like
who's
black bodies, very specific kind of black body in a specific style as well. But like I was obsessed with Henri Aguike because our teacher was like, oh, he's a Welsh Nigerian man. And I was like, yeah, like some Nigerian people are in this. Yeah, like there's a space for me in this. Like, you know what I mean? And I never even saw him on stage. I saw his dancers who weren't Nigerian, who weren't black, you know. But it was coming from a mixed Welsh Nigerian voice. So automatically I was like, right, I want to be in that. Yeah. Or I could be in that because there's some sort of, I don't know where in my brain I'd like put the two, put it all together, but I was like, maybe I could be in that, you know. Yeah. So I don't know is my question, because I don't, because I like, I'm like, it depends on the style and the context, and then representing what? Like, I'm like, is it visibility we're talking about, or is it like stereotypes, or is it like curated narratives? Because actually, like, you know, I'm thinking about again, like now, like the National Dance Awards, like the black companies or the black bodies I see for that are always like Ballet Black, and that is like, it's classical like frameworks on, and they're like, oh yeah, black dancers can do it too, so like that's when we're gonna shove them in there. You know, like, so I don't know.
No, I was just thinking about the companies you mentioned, because I'm lucky enough to be old enough to remember Learning Contemporary when it had Sharon Ray and Kenneth Tharp.
Yes, of course.
And then also seeing Phoenix when it was an all-black company, and just being, oh, they're whipping out splits, pirouettes, bit of beatboxing, bit of breaking, bit of a freeze, they just did everything. They were just dancing. So it was lovely to see. I was like, I could do that too, because I see representations of it on stage live. And then it sort of moved over, which is amazing. It's still like hip hop, because hip hop's grown, hip hop culture. But then it's also fragmentized as well. It's like, where am I allowed to be, and like, and am I okay being in this way, or should I be more of that way? As it seems to be more black. It's shifting a lot.
And it's, I think, from an outsider perspective, it's, from what I understand, feeling like you need to fit into a certain box within your performance.
Yes.
Yeah,
right?
I was just gonna say something like that because I mean, at the moment, these are themes that I'm writing about in my dissertation about stories and hip hop on screen specifically. But I'm reading a book by Adesola, Akinleye, on the narratives of Black British dance. It's amazing. Like, I'd recommend people getting it. But she talks about how the funding systems that were set up for black bodies to tell their stories were set up with the goal of, like, you'd only tell your story if you were talking about something that
Specific.
represented the black community in some way. Where she argues white dancers never get asked to do that.
Ever.
Right.
So to get money and to be in the high art spaces like the theatre world, we again see the similar stories being rehashed and redistributed of the woe of a country or of a community or of a culture perhaps. A lot of angry dances, even in hip hop now, on the screen. I'm definitely going to make a gigantic point, and I wanted to get the book to just read out a quote from it. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting one as well. That's maybe the reason why there isn't as many different narratives, and there's a single story maybe of particular bodies on screen. But as Alvin Ailey said, I was just dancing. It was the writers that called it black dance. And it was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, right. I was just dancing.
Don't know what happened.
Yeah, I know, right?
But I want to put it out there to anyone who is like of colour and studying that you don't need to feel pressured to make stuff about your particular colour or race. Do your thing. I was saying to a friend of mine before I joined the master's course at the place that I was feeling a bit overwhelmed that I had to bring some blackness to the place.
Because you're representing the whole.
Yeah, I just felt like there was only one of me here.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. So, but he said to me, Omari, no matter what you make, they're gonna see it.
Exactly.
So you might as well make what you want. That's Obi Golda, by the way, Hamilton. Shout out to my boy Obi. But yeah, so he told me that. He said, no matter, just do you, and it's gonna kind of go that way. But yeah, it's an interesting world because you kind of suffer that a burden of representation.
Yeah.
It is interesting because I equate it also with film and television series, like because I think I was saying to you about like there's Top Boy and all these other ones, and I know there's a need for that, but then also because I remember I was aspirational looking at Cosby Show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like, because there's no balance, it's all in one pot and those get green light lit, and I know there's also a need for that because people's stories need to be shown.
Absolutely.
But like, where's the other stories?
Yeah.
Of life before slavery or life before civil rights, because it's always either we do slavery or we do civil rights and riots, and that's it. That's our stories. It's like, well, what happened before we were enslaved, and do you know what I mean? Or I want to do a piece based on this Buddha bowl and chopsticks. Can I allow to just do that? Yeah.
Does it have to be about one of those?
Yes, the subjects. Yeah.
We have people with disabilities who go and dance and they're dancing about their disability. Why can't they just be doing a trick or doing something that's outside of that particular thing? So maybe that's where the shift kind of needs to happen. And I think that Screendance is actually a really nice way of disseminating that conversation outside of people who come and watch us with a similar voice, perhaps.
I suppose what you're saying is about like allowing the space, because I don't want to say like one's better than the other. It's just being allowed to make and create and talk about.
Having the space to create what you want to make.
Yeah.
Not being told you have to create a piece or a work about this topic because of who you are or what you look like.
Exactly.
So I guess that leads into, Omari touched on it just now, but talking about, what is black dance? How do you guys feel about that term? What does it mean to you?
If you want me to be honest,
Please.
I've never black dance. I don't want to say I've never heard of it.
Okay.
But but like, for instance, black music. If I went to Germany 4 years ago and I was in this opera, and I was one of the only black people in this opera, and I went to one of the other members. I was like, hey, I really want to go and like to this club tonight. Can you tell me what? And he was like, oh, blah, 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 this club plays black music. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, yes, this is what I want. I was like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
I was like, when you said black music, what do you mean? And then he was just like, oh yeah, so they play like hip hop, they play, and I was like, yes. But in my head, I was like, why didn't you say like jazz? Or like, why didn't you say like, why was it? So I feel a similar vibe with like black dance, because I'm sure if I say black dance, people would probably just say hip hop first, you know. They'd have like I'd really would love someone to be like jazz,
Yeah.
And then it to be, you know, like it to be like, okay, yeah, that's black dance, you know, or like, yeah, that's, I don't know, I mean, I want people to use black dance. I would love people to use black dance is black dance.
That was going to be my next question. Is it a matter of ownership? Do you feel that sometimes it does it have to have a positive or negative connotation? Can it be a matter of ownership, like this is our space, or do you see it on the flip side? Why do we have to classify it as that? Can it be open to?
I see it as definitely as ownership. I think you touched on it beautifully, but also as well, like, so I don't go and see films like La La Land and then go, how have I just watched 2 hours of no black people and it's jazz?
Yeah.
And someone wants to classify this as jazz.
Okay.
This is insane.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane. So if you are going to say, like, if we are going to own black dance, it needs to have all of the everything, rather than, oh, it's just hip. Of course it's hip hop. Yes, of course that is black dance, you know, but there's other things that people are completely like
overlooking.
You know, and appropriating, not even just appropriating, just like completely erasing.
Yeah, because it's not just one thing. That's the thing.
At all.
At the end of the day, it's a label. And the danger with all labels is it overlooks different elements of the topic. So,
Indeed.
how do you think? What do you think there?
It's just a hard, because the term keeps on going over and over again. I remember doing my dissertation back in 1996, about myths of the black body, exploration of race, dance and gender. And I was interviewed. Some artists were very much, I am a dancer who happens to be black.
Yeah.
And other artists were, no, I'm a black person, I make black dance, blackity black black. That everything is, which is yes. And I was like, I understand. Yes. And I totally understand both points of view. It's just like, it's when the labels, it's like, are you, some people are owning like, yes, this is me and I'm black and I want to make black dance as a result of that. This is my expression.
Yeah.
And other people feels like it limits them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like then codifying the label, what does black dance actually mean and the context of that, or you just, like a level playing field, you just own whatever label you put on yourself and you just go merrily and skip in the fields with that label. But because I think I'm more on the I'm a black person who, I'm a dancer who happens to be black, who makes work. I think I'm more on that. But it's one of those.
Yeah, I always jump between. I always jump between because I'm always like, in my head, I'm like, I am black though, regardless of like whether I say it.
Yeah,
my thing is black dance. Well, I'm making the dance, so it's going to be black dance anyway. Like, you know, like I'm just like.
A lot of people. There's a lot of writing on it. And, I've forgotten her name now. I believe it ends with Goddard. She's a very famous writer. Jennifer Dixon Goddard.
I know who you're talking about. She spoke recently at
Brenda Dixon Goddard.
Yes.
Ah,
She was at Serendipity, the
right.
festival this
So
year. Yes.
she is a big academic when it comes to black dance, but she was saying that the term black dance should be used in us for let's codify it so we understand
What it means.
the contributions that the black body has had to dance.
Yes.
But there's an ideology that at some point we will just be able to return to a world where we just say dancing, knowing that these histories exist and we can look into them and go, let me look up some black dance and black dance history and stuff like that, but also to kind of come back to the naked body again and you know, this is us as we human beings at the same time.
Are you saying that it was birthed out of an idea that because it wasn't presented, people had to go, right, this is the label for it, so we can say we're here and be visible?
Well,
is that what she was saying?
She was saying that the white writers were putting on pen, right, this is black dance.
Okay.
They were calling it that. Okay, fine, that happened. So let's use it to our advantage.
Okay.
And use that as a label for research and looking at what our black bodies have contributed. But also, let's also think about these things. Like, do you want to associate yourself with that? I got told not to put the word urban into the Motion Dance Collective's blurb. We can talk about that word as well, but and you know, urban has connotations with black, it has connotations with ghetto, it also has connotations with city. So it's, I think in any of these contexts, you've got to choose your own context of how you relate to that, what you want to represent from that, I think, and and find the truth out about it and be ignorant to it and have your single story for what you think that word is, because it could also mean hip hop to some people, but it also means the contemporary dance that happens here in the city. It also means the ballet dancers who are here in the city.
Exactly.
So the ideology is to return to this place of wholeness with everything, right?
But to get there, we need to start here, is what you're saying, right?
That's where the song comes out. Guys, look, I can't thank you enough for today. Like, we're running around. We totally run out of time. This conversation will continue forever. So I want our listeners to like.
I was getting in.
Literally, right? Yeah. No, I think the conversation needs to continue, and we definitely need to talk more about this. And our listeners, post any questions and things, and let's we'll send it to you guys, and let's just answer them and see what they're saying, and let's keep the conversation going.
Thank you.
It's just not.
It's like 1 hour. Oh my God, it went so quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's fun. Yay.